Okay, let's see if this is
Let's see if this works better.
that. All right, hopefully.
It might.
All right, so let's give this a shot. So,
Okay. I'll leave it at the beginning.
um,
Oh, sorry. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. Super connected.
welcome to disconnectivity.
Welcome to the connections that are super and artivity. Welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. With me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Mozz, the man. Welcome to episode 401. Only 19 more episodes till episode 420.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, there we go. So there's something to look forward to. Oh, man. So episode 401. So we're back to just business as usual. It's not another big 400th episode. But it is an episode where we can talk about what's going on in the universe today. And one of the big stories could be Ant-Man Part 3, Electric Boogaloo, The Rise of Kang. And why don't you give me some thoughts on this, Mozz? Because you had some thoughts.
I think it looks incredible. I'm super excited for it. Every Ant-Man so far has been really good. And even Jonathan Majors is growing on me. Every trailer I see, you start giving more perspective to his previous performance, and it helps it make more sense. So I'm super excited, but I think it's kind of funny where a lot of reviewers are calling it the Marvel version of Star Wars. And I saw one article that seemed to be laying it on really thick. Oh, some reviewer said this was Marvel's Star Wars. And it kind of made me think, like, it almost sounded like it had the air of somebody trying to preempt a bad story, like a PR person trying to get on top of the story before it gets out. And maybe what somebody said was, oh, this is just a ripoff of Star Wars or something derogatory. And they said, oh, let's get on top of this. So every time somebody even hears a mention of this quote, they're going to associate it with the version of the story that we tell first. So I don't know if it's that or not. Probably not. It sounded that way.
You're a cold-hearted and cynical man, Mozz, and I love that about you. Because the world needs people to look askance at things, to have that jaundiced eye, to say, I smell something, and it sure ain't petunias.
Right.
But I do take it at face value.
I hope so.
I do presume that these people are saying that this is an epic Star Wars, and it actually, because here's the thing about it. One of the core aspects of Star Wars is that familial dynamic, that idea of the Skywalkers, and how the Skywalkers basically screwed up all of the entire galaxy. But it strikes me, maybe what we're going to be seeing in this film is a familial dynamic that people aren't expecting. And this is, I think, one of the advantages that the MCU does have, in the fact that it's not the comic books. And it can rhyme with the comic books. It can look like the
comic books.
Got it. And, so looking like the comic books, rhyming like the comic books, all these things together make it the MCU, but the details on how you get there can change.
And they should change, because otherwise you wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly.
And they're trying to recapture the feeling of these things happening, not just a retelling of a tired trope.
And that is why it is so fascinating the way that they've had to dance around the Fantastic Four. Because, especially within this context, because everybody knows that Kang is descendant of Reed Richards, or possibly Dr. Doom, or possibly both. which is a real possibility in the modern 616 comics and anything else. And you get this idea within it that, you know what, we could tell this same story, but not have it be about the Richards. Because the reason it follows the Richards was just because when Marvel Comics started, the Richards family, Reed and Sue and Ben and Johnny, they were just the first ones. And they were the ones doing the cosmic stories. They were the ones doing time travel stories. So when it came time to sort of find that origin point for Kang, it made sense to tie it back to Reed Richards. But that's not the 616. In the 616, first off, we start off with Tony Stark and then retroactively introduce Howard Stark and then introduce Hank Pym as the true hidden master genius of the universe, which is sort of what the Reed Richards role always was. That Howard Stark, who is the great genius of the day, is also not to be trusted by Hank Pym, who is, in his own way, categorically smarter, because he is the guy who's cracked the code on the Pym particle. Yeah, well, not just time travel, but arguably the thing that makes time travel possible. As I always say, the thing about the Pym particle is it's effectively the Higgs boson, and it's a way to create anti-Higgs bosons, and Higgs bosons are the particle that attributes the concept of mass, whatever that means. But it's just this idea. And of course, when Stan Lee and the gang were writing these things, it was just, let's make them small. Let's make them big.
Right. Was that term around from back then? Quantum realm, quantum?
No. I mean, no. And actually, no, because it was actually the microverse originally. When they first started going to the microverse, it was called the microverse.
Gotcha.
But it was actually called the microverse because that was a toy tie-in. And they still call it the microverse because it's a generic enough term. But because technically microverse is owned by the Micronauts, it's like a weird way in which it's sort of like how you can have, and this is one of the things, it's like Shuma-Gorath. You can have Shuma-Gorath in the comics because the Howard books that reference Shuma-Gorath don't describe him, and it's a vague enough word that when Marvel introduced a character Shuma-Gorath, they can use it in the comics. But when it goes to translating it into the cinematic realm, possibly expressly because Disney is proactive in not getting sued and respecting certain trademarks because they own certain trademarks that people say they shouldn't own anymore. So they're like, well, we're going to show our deference to trademarks, and that's going to help our trademark posse sort of continue on the idea that no. There's certain contexts where you can't use these things, and so we're going to respect that, and so we're going to do that. That's why we don't get a Shuma-Gorath in Doctor Strange, and we don't get a microverse in Ant-Man. We get the Quantum Realm. Because technically a microverse belongs to the Micronauts, which at this point I want to say is owned by Hasbro, but it might be Tonka. Wow. I'm not sure. Yeah, because the Micronauts, which were these super cool toys back when I was a youngin', and it's weird because it was like the first Japanese import toy that had no basis in anything. And it wasn't like a cartoon, but they were cool because they were like these little clear plastic robot men. And all that. And one of them, funnily enough, was the pharaoh who had a time traveling sarcophagus. But that was clearly borrowing from Rama-Tut, which is Kang the Conqueror. So there's there's levels within levels within levels in these things. But the idea is that if you are going to make this descendant of the world's greatest genius, yes, there he is, the time traveler. Oh, but that one doesn't come with his sarcophagus.
Let's see if they have the sarcophagus guy here.
Yeah. Oh man, that brings me back. Yeah. Oh, right there. See, the little blue one.
Oh,
you see that? Yeah. Time traveler with his sarcophagus. Oh,
time chamber. Wow. Okay.
yes. Yeah.
That does sound like what they're going to do a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is, and so this is what's interesting. So the idea of Nathaniel Richards, the future science man, finding his ancient ancestors' time machine and going off to conquer all of the universe is actually derived from what had established in Marvel Comics at that time, because they'd already established Dr. Doom as a time traveler. They'd already had Rama Tut come in. They've already had all these things. But in the MCU, these things were just developed along the Hank Pym line. And so we may find out in this that Kang is not the descendant of Reed Richards, which is going to open up things for the Fantastic Four story that's going to change a lot of realities.
So is that a common thing that everybody knows, that Kang is descendant from Reed Richards?
If you're I
didn't know that at all. And I think when they're saying this could be Marvel Star Wars, it could be referencing that moment where you thought, oh, I am your father, you know?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying is I think that may be what they're going to build here, because that is what is interesting about it, because Reed Richards is the smartest man in his universe. Hank Pym is clearly the smartest man in this universe. He has a line of descendants with Hope now, with being with
Ant-Man.
Yeah, well, I want to say Paul Rudd, but I'm trying to remember Paul Rudd's character's name all of a sudden. But they could have a child. That child could create the line that leads to Kang eventually. And the idea being that the Hank Pym line could spread out where we get Kang the Conqueror.
So that girl that's with him, his daughter, could be that?
Well, Cassie's something different. Cassie is Scott Lang's daughter.
Right.
So, I mean, he could be the descendant of Scott Lang's daughter, because I remembered his name. Scott Lang is, I can remember once I remembered Cassie, so that works. You know, as you go through it, you can see how, yes, it could also be Cassie Lang's descendants. It could be that, it could also be that he is a descendant of Morgan Stark, because her father did invent the time machine. So, you know, it's interesting how suddenly all of these lines could exist that could give us a Kang. And we don't know which it will be yet. And I think that may be where it opens up. And along those same lines, when Kang first appears in the comics and he interacts with Dr. Doom, he makes the point about, I used my ancient ancestors' time platform. And Doom said, well, I am the only one with the genius to create a time platform. So clearly I must be your ancestor, which built out this.
That's the worst mom joke ever.
Yes, well, you know, but that's Dr. Doom for you. And the thing is, like, he didn't know. It's like, okay, sure, why not? I mean, no one knows. It was like 3 nuclear wars ago, man. So sure, I'm your descendant. I'll go along with it.
That's hilarious.
But this is where the entire parentage of Kang's open-ended possibilities come from.
Hmm.
And if they start looking into that idea of who is the descendant, what is the line of Kang? Where does it come from? That could be very interesting. And that gives us this Star Wars feel, the Star Wars idea. And of course, within this, we know that the Wasp had been in the quantum realm for a prolonged period, knows who this person is. Like presuming that it's not like a one generational thing and she was pregnant when she went there and he was raised in the quantum realm. I hope they don't go that route. That's a little too easy.
Yeah.
But that's a possibility too. But I think the idea that she realizes whatever things he's doing, it's because of what Hank Pym did. And maybe even that's why she stayed behind, because she was afraid once Hank realized what he had, he might create the things that would lead to Kang. And that's sort of where things get interesting, because it's about when you go into that retroactive activity, what are the things I'm doing today that are going to change the future? And when you think about where the future could be, is this something we should do?
Good
And
Lord, that's a lot to hold on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing about, like, if you think about modern technology right now, it's like right now, it's like you could think about all these different things. Like, if we could do X, we could solve this problem. But then immediately, if you actually are a thinker, you're going to go, oh, but you remember how when we started burning all those fossil fuels, it caused this other problem? What if doing that is going to cause this problem? Like, if we use ocean water to power everything, we're going to keep on taking a lot of water out of the oceans. What is the net effect of that? What's that going to do to the fish? What's that going to do to us? Because we also need water. It's sort of like that whole, you can either feed the horses grain or feed ourselves grain. But we're going to lose some horsepower in this somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's what you come into with those long-term effects and those long-term problems. Oh, excuse me. Problems of thinking about what will this technology do. But that all leads us back to the Fantastic Four, which I also think will become a part of this.
In this movie, or in a subsequent in this thread?
I don't know. But I think it's one of those things where, because Kang's true origins are unknown, and we can say, like, in our Marvel comic book universe, we can go back to Reed Richards. Mostly because it's been told to us in comics history that he has, although even that is its own retcon, because you have the original origin of Ramatut, which was then retold by John Byrne, which was in another universe where Nathaniel Richards went into a parallel dimension and had children and sort of created a utopia that eventually that descendant of his rebels against to go and seek adventure. There's so many different ways that these things play out and work themselves out. And, you could get this idea where we're establishing in the MCU that, no, he is actually the son of Hank, or the child of the Pyms. And then we're going to get the reveal that, well, there is another. Again, to give it another Star Wars layer to it, that there is the Fantastic Four out there. Now, Matt Shakman is the director of the Fantastic Four, and he has said, we have not cast yet. And it's actually kind of interesting to me that it seems like now the thing that casting is like the last step. Like they build the story.
So they build him as the director for the Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Matt Shackman is the director on the Fantastic Four movie, probably doing some writing on it, as is the style of the time.
who directed this Ant-Man movie?
This is 1 second. Ant-Man 3.
Hey Google, who is directing Ant-Man Quantumania?
Oh, look at that. Peyton Reed.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania was directed by
Hey Google, stop.
See,
Peyton Reed,
I can still be John Henry. I can Google faster than Hey Google.
What else has he done?
Peyton Reed. Well, Peyton Reed has done the previous Ant-Mans.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
And let's see here.
Can you see if no, but he wouldn't fit into this story. I was saying, is Michael Pena back? But I doubt it.
Actually, who knows? Maybe he is. Okay. So here we go. So here's some fun things for you about Peyton Reed. Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Yes Man, starring the incomparable
Ryan Reynolds?
No, Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay.
Bring It On, The Breakup, which
the breakup that was with
Jennifer Aniston, and it wasn't Jon Favreau. It was the other guy.
The other guy from Swingers. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a really good movie too.
Yeah, they're all good. I mean, the Goodwin Games. Oh, he's worked on New Girls, Gregory Brothers, Chessmen, The Breakup. Oh, Super Chunk crowding up your visual field. Down with Love. He was the director on Down with Love. If you ever saw that classic 60s throwback. Yeah, so he's he's your classic Marvel indie director that they gave $1 billion to. Said, make something weird and fun. And he says, okay.
I mean, he does know how to do fun.
He does know how to do fun, and he does know how to do weird. That's the thing. It's like you can't say he can't do weird, and you can't say he can't do fun. And so I do think Peyton Reed's what Peyton Reed has done with this has been pretty good. I think what he will do with
is Reed. That's
his last name is Reed. Yeah, just a coincidence. Like when the guy that was playing David Banner was named, or Bruce Banner was named David Banner. It's like
Eric Banner. Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, no, David Banner was in the Ang Lee Hulk.
I think it's Eric Bana.
Eric Bana?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, I just remember that sounded like a name that Bruce Banner or David Banner would have made up when he was traveling across country.
Right. Right.
Oh, that was actually an interesting article I was reading where they were saying, what they really should do is bring back Werewolf by Night, but actually make it like the Incredible Hulk, and just have the Werewolf by Night going from town to town, trying to avoid,
Yeah, we haven't had a good series like that in a while, where it's like a traveling martial arts hobo or like a supernatural hobo that solves mysteries, A-Team style.
Well, arguably, there are a lot. They're all on the CW, Although I guess they aren't martial arts hobos because like Kung Fu.
Nomads.
What? Yeah, I'm trying to think. The only one, the closest you have, I guess, is the Winchesters. The Winchesters are the one group, or part of that Supernatural, where they were traveling around being supernatural hobos.
Oh.
I think that everything else is usually grounded to a place where you don't go from place to place. But yeah, I mean, they should have a nice murder hobo show again. We need more hobos on TV. I don't just say that because I like hobos, but it's a thing with me.
Don't move to Portland. They'll make you hate hobos.
Oh, well, see, no, if you're staying in one place, you're not a hobo. That's the thing about the hobo lifestyle. The hobo travels. The hobo travels, and the hobo works for a living. Doesn't work
Really?
hard, but they do work.
It's the hobos.
Yes, here's to the hobos. You know, kings of the road. That's the hobo code. Is
Yeah.
you show up, you do work, they feed you, you move on, and you don't stay in one place too long. You don't make attachments, but you try to do good where you go, and you ride the rails, and you swap songs, and that's the legend of the hobo life. And how I love my hobo life, stabbing folks with my hobo knife.
What's that from?
That's from The Simpsons when they meet and I believe that was played by Hank Pym's actor. Now I'm blanking on his name. The guy who plays Hank Pym in these things. Michael Douglas. Yes. Michael Douglas, I believe, played the singing hobo on The Simpsons. Just to bring it all right back. Michael Douglas, not Kirk Douglas, who was his father.
Right.
If I'm remembering everybody,
right?
Yeah, that was Spartacus. I am Spartacus. I do believe I sang you 3 songs. That's a whole other reference. But moving right along. But that brings us back to Matt Shakeman, who is the person who is going to be doing, what has Matt Shakeman done outside of Marvel? He was going to do the final installment of Star Trek, and he decided to skip that and do Fantastic Four instead. He is most known right now, I'll say this, for doing WandaVision.
Oh.
And let's see here. He worked on Just the 10 of Us, Meet the Hollowheads, and A Night at the Magic Castle. So these are some weird, obscure things he's done.
Where did they find this guy?
Well, they hired him to do WandaVision. And they really apparently liked him in WandaVision.
Yeah, a lot of people really liked that show, I guess.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And I guess
it was fun, but
that's fine. You don't have to as I tell everyone, Mozz, not everything is for everybody.
Yep.
And what's fascinating to me about that is there were so many references that everyone was certain was going to reference the Fantastic Four, the cosmic background radiation, the aerospace engineer, and all of these things, and of course, just the existence of SWORD as a spacefaring agency. All these references that never paid off for the Fantastic Four, and then he winds up being put in charge of the Fantastic Four. It just opens up, what is he going to do with the Fantastic Four? And to that end, everyone is speculating who's going to be Reed Richards. And not
reports recently it's Dave Patel. That would be cool.
Dave Patel is the one people are pushing for. I got no problem with that. See,
I'm a fan. And he kind of looks like Brown Jim anyways.
Well, there you go.
Don't you think?
I guess so. Like I said, I don't see characters from The Office. So, and we're back. Oh my goodness, we have been pulled through time because clearly what we just said a little while ago has angered the gods of the quantum realm. Kang is lashing out against us, did not want us, because I realized this. I think that, because we originally recorded on Wednesday, now we're recording on Sunday. It's likely that this film will come out before. If we had actually did it on Wednesday, Phil probably would have put it up on Friday, and we would have absolutely spoiled Quantumania for everyone by explaining the secret origins of Kang. But that's okay because we're going to press forward. We've already done that. That was recorded. We could have put that up, but we also wanted to talk a little bit about Fantastic Four casting. When last we spoke, I was discussing that, much like not every show is for everybody. I am not a fan of The Office.
Hmm.
It's never one that clicked with me. I don't know why. It seems like it's a good show, but it's like, it just didn't enrapture me. But not every show is for every person, and that's okay. I will say this: Dev Patel would be great as Reed Richards. He was in Slumdog Millionaire, so we know the man can.
And he was in that show, The Newsroom.
Yes. Did you just intend to stop the recording?
I thought I was hitting mute
Okay.
because I was going to cough. I accidentally hit pause, didn't I?
Yes, you did. But it also
Okay.
said recording has started again.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
started this time.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Quantum Realm, why are you attacking us?
Yeah. Hey, Quantum Realm's all in here.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think he would be great. My personal choice, and this is everyone gets mad when I say this, I think Henry Cavill would be a great Reed Richards. And everyone says, "Oh, how can you have a guy be that buff be Reed Richards?" And I am sorry, Reed Richards is buff. Reed Richards is a physically strong guy, and if you see him in
relative to normal humans, sure, but relatives to like the gods that exist in these stories, he looks like a scrawny little, and most of the times you see him, he's being stretched anyway, so it over emphasizes.
I know, but first off,
and I think Dave Patel has that frame.
Oh I'm not saying Dave Patel's frame isn't good. I'm just because there's all this talk about, now that he's out of the Superman business, what's he going to do? I think that would actually be a good role for him. That's my own opinion, and I would like him to go in a direction different than being Superman. So that's the thing. That's my take. Not everyone has to embrace it, and that's okay.
Right. I just think it wouldn't be the convenient move if you're trying to tell a story where people don't see him as something else. You have to fight that initial image of Superman and then see him as I think if we can avoid that would be cool.
I think he plays a great Sherlock Holmes in Enola Holmes.
Mm.
So that's what I'm basing it on. And I think he liked the idea of going from Superman, where he's, always just, entering the room chest first, to being a guy who is a bit more circumspect and a bit more intellectual.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that as an actor, that's what he would want. Yeah. But like my priority is making a good movie for me. Okay. Right? I mean, like what would be nice for me is nice for him, sure, but don't ruin it for everybody else just because you want to sink your teeth into a role. Go do that somewhere else. And when we forget that you're Superman, then maybe you can come back and do something like this and we would welcome it.
Yeah. And that's fair. And we'll have to see what goes on over at DC first. Because truth be told, I don't know that his contract has expired. So there may be an effort to not let him leave Marvel yet, or leave DC yet, because he may still be under contract. And much the same way that Jason Momoa is probably still under contract, even as there may be talks about recasting him as another character in the DC universe. So, but getting back to this, Dev Patel would be great. I'd want him to cut his hair a bit. That maybe.
I'm sure they would. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Some people get weird about that.
Yeah. But I don't want to see a beatnik Richard Reed.
Yeah. It's exactly. I want him to be. I want him to be that super scientist. And I don't want them to change his origins too much. I still want him to be the son of another super scientist. I don't want them to go with the just a blue collar.
Maybe that'll be the reason to keep his hair crazy, because they'll just say he was Einstein's son or something from one of his many philandering escapades.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's what we were just talking about the history of Kang and Franklin Richards and time travel within this entire structure of the Fantastic Four. Now, they have, and again, like we said, they have given other people other stories in the past. So, and as I've always pointed out, that Cloak and Dagger actually have Monica Rambeau's origin, where they're on the oil rig and the Eldritch energies come up, and that's what infuses them. And that was Monica Rambeau's origin, which they gave to Cloak and Dagger, and then they have given Monica Rambeau a new origin, which we don't know yet. And that's going to be interesting, what that actually was. You know, did she have powers before she went in, or?
Speaking of which, a little while ago, you said something about the cosmic background radiation. Is that responsible for, in the comics originally, the Fantastic Four's powers?
Yes, that is the Fantastic Four's powers. So that's really, that is, which is why I definitely think there's going to be something with the snap. There's going to be, and like I said, that is a great way. That's the other thing that I worry about with Dev Patel, is that he might not be old enough. I think he's in his 30s, so maybe he's like just in the right medium part of the curve. But the idea being that, you know, he and Susan could have been together, and this was my pitch a while ago, that he and Susan and Ben and Johnny were working with what do you call it, Sword, and we're working in that, you know, hyperspace field and all this stuff, and doing all these experiments, and then the snap happened. And that effectively my idea was that Reed, because he had all the sensor stuff, has all of these documentations on on the cosmic background radiation and what exactly happened, because he was monitoring everything at that moment. And then he's basically just reverse engineering Infinity Stones, and effectively, before the snap, maybe brings Sue and Johnny back. And that explains the gap in time, you know.
So what is, in the comics, what is the cosmic background radiation?
Well, that's just cosmic rays. That's basically the Van Allen belt. And so our planet is surrounded by what's called the Van Allen belt, which is this cosmic radiation that is encircling our planet. It's basically all of the radiation that sort of gets diverted by our Earth's magnetic field. But as a result, it's a huge wall of radiation all around the planet. Right. And that's usually why you do a lot of shielding. And most rocket ships do have a lot of shielding for that purpose.
Right. I'm just saying, because that's not what the cosmic background radiation is in science. I'm just wondering, what in the comics, is that what they call the cosmic background radiation? That
well, it's called cosmic ray. It was called cosmic rays, and cosmic ray.
But do they call it cosmic background radiation?
Well, that is still cosmic. So cosmic rays are, basically, it's a mishmash of the radiation that's out in space, because the space is full of radiation. And cosmic background radiation is the cosmic rays. So when you turn on a TV, well, you don't anymore, but when you used to turn on a TV and you had an analog signal, and you'd get like all the static,
the fuzz, yeah.
But
I mean, according to science,
that's why it's called background radiation.
Resonance of the Big Bang. It's like the remnants, or like the resonance of the radiation that happened during the Big Bang. So it's like just in the background. It's not. So it was interesting to me how they interpret that term in comic lore relative to what it is.
Exactly. Well, because and it's sort of an interesting aspect that they've built out from it, because they've effectively built out that, the cosmic rays are derived from this moment of the Big Bang that created the Infinity Gems, or the Infinity Stones. And so that's why this radiation can now grant superpowers. And interestingly enough, one of the central rays, one of the central bits of radiation in cosmic background radiation are gamma rays. So it just kind of worked into the storyline, that it all kind of pieces together in this universe, the way that it builds itself. That even though these were just random terms that Stan Lee picked, they actually fit things nicely.
Yeah. And it's funny, even with the way that you just described the infinity stones, that's how physicists talk about the forces separating from each other as the world cooled, right? They were all one big force, and then it was a strong, weak nuclear force, gravity, or electromagnetism. I forget which gravity's flipped first, but it's just like those infinity storms coalescing into matter as the Big Bang happened. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, well, it is, because that's just the that's the good trick for all science fiction writers out there. Be super vague as you talk about things, and then later you're going to be able to fit actual science to make it work. It's like the Heisenberg compensator. Exactly what it's compensating for and how it compensates doesn't matter. But you know what? As we learn more things about uncertainty principles, we're going to say, well, that's what it's doing,
Yeah, we'll leave that for the 2060s.
Yeah, exactly. Let's, put it out there, let it sit, and let it, because, truth be told, we don't even know that the Heisenberg compensators are even compensating for the Heisenberg uncertainty prism. Yeah, uncertainty prism. They could be some other Heisenberg, like, 40, because it's a common name. Right. So, like, Steve Heisenberg actually invented the compensator, and it's compensating for something completely different than the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So that's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, a lot of talk about Reed Richards. I'm more interested in Sue and Johnny Storm. Just because I do think that Reed and Sue dynamic is important, and I do want to have that Reed and Sue dynamic. And then I want there to be a visual. I don't want them to be not brother and sister. And I really want it to be a situation where it is, because I like the old school Fantastic Four, where Sue basically, after their parents died, wound up raising Johnny and is very much the mom of the group. Like, she is Johnny Storm's older sister, but she had to take on the weight of being the matriarch of the family, which fits well into her role with Reed Richards as the first family. Now they're not the first family anymore, but they still should have that dynamic. There should still be a family dynamic. Ben and Reed should be best friends. They really should. And I think that is a central dynamic. And of course, like I've always said, don't go in for Von Doom too quick, because I would really rather we get a Molecule Man. Molecule Man would be cool. Mole Man would be cool. Annihilus and the Negative Zone would be cool, Psycho Man and the Quantum Realm would be cool. That's actually who I'm most interested in seeing in Quantumania, is if they're going to give us a Psycho Man. Psycho Man is basically, he's a being from the microverse, and his whole thing is he has a box that manipulates your emotions. And interestingly enough, the one character that we do see, Bill Murray's character, also had a weapon that would expose your greatest fear. So it just creates this image of your greatest fear, and that's what attacks you. And that's also what Psycho Man would do. So I am not going to be surprised if we see Psycho Man. I think that would be a great character. And then Psycho Man as a soldier of Kang, or even just someone manipulated by Kang, could be that first threat that the Fantastic Four faces.
Yeah. Let us write out Kang first before you get to Doom. And I'm sure that's really what they're doing, is just planting little hints so that by the time we get done with Kang, we see the next big baddie.
Oh, yeah. But you can have other baddies in there. That's the thing. Right.
But he deserves to be the next graduating.
Oh, of course. Psycho Man's not all love to Psycho Man. He's not what you would call a big bad in the Marvel Universe. Right. He could be, because he does manipulate emotions, but he also manipulates emotions on a very basic level. It's like his box says fear, hate, anger,
Yeah.
So
the level of crimes he's probably committing are probably very local.
Well, to the quantum realm. Although within that, he can also have an entire population living under constant fear, which leads to real oppression of people. So
Wow.
I can see
So he
how
can
that's a useful tool.
manipulate the emotions en masse as opposed to
Oh
individual.
yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah, he can do all sorts of things, and he is a
They should call him social media.
yes, he is a tough guy. He is someone you don't want to mess with. Is what I will say about Psycho Man. But it would be interesting to see where they go with that. It's an option, and I'm here for it. I'm here for
That sounds
whatever
fun.
craziness they decide to do.
Yeah.
Do not put Annihilus in the microverse. Please give us a negative zone eventually.
Hmm.
That's the other thing I really want. And quite frankly, if we go to the negative zone, we could get Blastar. He's a pretty cool guy. He's just a big, like, bear dog man who shoots ray beams out of his fists, and his name is Blastar. So he is such a B tier supervillain, but he's sort of like a warlord of his realm. That it's interesting because obviously he when you just say him, he just doesn't seem like an impressive threat. But of course, he is a great warrior, so he has a great band of other beings from his society. And I believe he's like the one being in his society who has this phenomenal superpower to just shoot ray beams out of his fists. And so he dominates everyone. And that's an interesting character to bring in, especially because, again, it's not a nihilist. It's not someone that is going to be too esoteric. Because the way they've evolved Annihilus over the years has gotten very, very much into the concepts of death and life, and that in the antimatter realm, everything is death, and it's all about everything moving into death and breaking down. I'd also love to see something with the Nor dimension being the negative zone, and that's just my own personal fan theory that no one has gotten into yet. But I think that could be cool too.
But isn't that regular life though? We're born hurtling towards death and constantly breaking down.
Well, actually, no. I guess the idea in the negative zone is that you die and then come to life. Is the idea that it's death leads to life rather than life leading to death. It's
interesting.
They've had different ways that they've discussed it, but the idea is that everything in the negative zone, when it wants to come into this universe, it is just to destroy this universe because, as we know, antimatter, matter annihilate each other. So that's the goal. All right, Mozz. Anything else you want to talk about on this amazing episode of Superconnectivity that Kang has been trying to stop us from releasing?
No, I think we got to it. Let's count our lucky stars.
Yeah, we got through this. We've won this time. And folks, if you would like to help us thwart Kang and all of his evil, you can do so by just writing us a letter, letting us know that you support us in the fight against Kang and the Quantumania. You can write to us at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics, all spelled out, @gmail.com. Or call us on the telephone and leave us a voice message about your thoughts on Kang and his attack on this show, trying to keep his secrets, at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Likewise, if you'd like to just physically support us, go to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/capesandlunatics. And from there, you can buy all kinds of merch, t-shirts, mugs, phone cases, or give us money either through Patreon or Cash App, because we love to have money and we're paying for this ourselves. And right now, we don't make money because we're spending money to put this on the air and enlighten you. And Mozz, if they don't want to give us money, but they still want to talk to you about your genius ideas, how can they find you?
Oh, they can reach out to me via email at mozzmanzor@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where our mothers and fathers once did it, superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's Superconnectivity Blog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter when I live tweet things when I feel like it, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz.
Hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have thwarted Kang once again, hopefully, assuming this all recorded. Come back again next week as we once again try to connect all the things that should not be connected. Good night.
All right. Let's